Congratulations to General Bob.
Thank you. Well, thanks very much to all of you for showing up here today. I know it's early morning, at least it is for some of us that are getting closer to that over 60. Say thank you to my wife, Nancy, Gary Stoppelman, Andy Butler for making the recommendation for this award. Also for my family, I have my brother Bill and his wife Wendy. Bill is the person on this earth that has known me the second longest of my life. And we have traveled the world together under our folks. My father, I'm sure, is probably standing over both our shoulders. He passed away in September. He would have been a perfect fit for this award back in the day as well. And then my mother, who, if there was an award for the mentorship over 90, she would be perfect for that. She still has good comments and good memories of our lives together. I have Father Quint here as well, someone else who would fit in this category, though I'm not sure if he's over 60 or not. But Father Quint I know him through the Catholic Church in that he is the person that comes forward and helps with the renovation of different projects that are going on. So he did the Basilica St. in Dyersville, and he has done our St. Raphael's here in town and been significantly part of what's going on with the rework of the Catholic community here in Dubuque. As well, I have Gary Stoppelman and Emma Stapleton from the museum. That has been a big part of my life for the last, I think it's been 8 years that I really have stepped forward to it. My wife has been there. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary back in April, and we went to Italy, which took me back to my childhood from when I was would have been middle school. We lived in Gaeta, Italy, with my father being in the Navy and traveling around. I've always thought that having that kind of a life, whereas my mother always said there were 4 of us children under 5 years old that she had, and we were from San Diego to DC to Italy to Japan to all over the United States, and working that, it made us a very close-knit family, but it also allowed me to see places around the United States and places around the world that aren't the best. I moved away from Dubuque when I was 3 years old. I came back I was about 23, 24 years old as a single parent of a 1 and a 3-year-old. My entire family had been there for me with that. We met Nancy about 6 years later, and she was the one who helped raise my children, who are now Colorado and Florida. They're very great. They also have our 4 grandchildren that we spend a lot of time seeing them and visiting them. One of the things that I have always wanted to do, and several of you, the speakers have made the mention, that you want to leave the world a better place. I've been very fortunate to have been a Iowa farm boy, for lack of a better word, that fell into things. I happened to walk in the mall one day, and they had a helicopter in there and said, "Hey, how'd you like to, get in the National Guard?" Well, I was already in the National Guard, and they said, "Well, how'd you like to fly a helicopter?" I said, "The high school diploma, I can." And they said, "No, that's all you need." And continued with that in military career. It was a perfect fit for me. Fell into things that was where I said right place, right time. But it was really doors of opportunity. Actually, the title of my book, A Doors of Opportunity. Haven't finished it yet, but working on it. And it's all about setting yourself up for success, but mentoring others. One of my models that folks know with when I work with someone, whether hiring them or me getting hired by them, which several of you out there have done that. And that is, one is to always hire the best, let them and expect them to do their job, and then thank them, whether it is a handshake, pat on the back, or an award with something like this. And that is what has made me successful, is in the amount of people and the amount of qualities that they have that they were willing to share and mentor me, and then allowing me then to pass that on. I do believe that my young travel around the world allowed me to step up with the military and in the political side of the house, behind the door, behind the person in front, and it made a significance at the international level, national level, state level, and local level. And so this is very much appreciated. One, it lets me know that I'll be remembered as General Bob for the rest of my life, which never ever expected that to happen. And that the over 60, there are still many of us out there, and I hope to be around for a lot longer, that maybe I'll be able to be one of those mentors over 90. Thank you very much.
Please join me in congratulating Lori Kirk.
Thank you. Well, what an honor, and what a great group of people to be recognized with. When I first found out, and I'd like to thank Judy for recognizing me, but when I found out, I called my sisters and I told them, and I said, I'm thrilled to be nominated, but now everyone knows I'm over 60, and that took me a little bit to adjust, even though I fully know I'm 60, that's for sure. I've been working with people in our community for over 30 years, and I've worked many years right here in this room and met a lot of people, a lot of wonderful people in our community. And I also learned a lot about what it takes to make a successful event. It's not just one person, it's everyone involved, from people from setup to tear down, and that's through every part of your life. And Dubuque is a wonderful community to be a part of, and it certainly has provided me a wonderful career to raise my 4 beautiful children, and now the opportunity to enjoy 6 beautiful grandchildren, and I've been truly, truly blessed. But you do meet a lot of people, and at Steeple Square, where I've been most recently, that has been a new experience for me in the nonprofit sector. I has always worked in events, making memories for people. I always like to say I'm making memories. It sounds better than event planning in my own mind. But you make memories, and at Steeple Square, it's also an opportunity to tell a story more often, and it's about the history. And I've certainly been a part of the history. I raised my children in St. Pat's and St. Mary's. So it's truly near and dear to my heart, and the struggles and changes that the Catholic faith has gone through in our community, and hopefully we'll see more changes in a positive way and more growth, but it certainly has been a part of my life and who I am, my faith. And what else we do at Steeple Square, the educational programs, and trying to tell that story. And I think, like many organizations in our community, there's so many facets to the organization, and it's hard to tell the story in a short amount of time. And you're trying to be creative, and how do you make it happen, and how do you spread the word, and we have so many wonderful visitors that come to Dubuque, and I love to talk about Dubuque and our history, and I've been very fortunate and very blessed, and with going at Steeple Square, I have to thank my husband Scott, who he is volunteer on demand by me many, many times, and I'm so grateful for that. He's been a godsend because sometimes as a nonprofit you don't have a lot of money to fix things, and he's wonderful at fixing things, and he calls and he comes running, and we're fortunate in that way. But I'd like to thank everyone. It's been a great opportunity, and I hope through my faith, through my kindness, how I've treated people, and the lives I touch, that maybe it might help somebody else decide to go out and help others, and to remember we're in this together. We're, not one person can make it happen. So thank you, everyone.
Congratulations to Greg Orwoll.
Thank you so very much. What an honor, and such a group of illustrious folks here. I'm just flattered to be here and for this recognition. Thanks to the Telegraph-Herald for doing this. This is a very important award, not only for the recipients. This is very heady, to say the least. But it's important that this kind of a format helps us tell our story about what it is we're doing in the community. And we're engaging more and more people in understanding all the things that go on in Dubuque. The more I get involved in different things around Dubuque, the more I'm fascinated by how many things are happening here successfully that a lot of folks don't even know about. And it's just an incredible community, always looking for something new. I'd like to thank Sue and Kathy for the nomination, certainly. Sue was the original founder of Do Ride. And she still takes me to coffee about once a month and tells me if I'm screwing up or not. And obviously I listen because she actually pointed that out, so that's a good sign. With me is some of my family here. My mother, Colleen, is here from Decorah, all 100% Norwegian. And my sister, Sue, my daughters, Kristen and Brianna, and son-in-law, Joe, and my wife, Shirley, who just retired from the school district after 38 years. That should be its own banquet by itself. Thank you for that. Also, we've got a number of our volunteers here today. If you would wave, those of you that are current volunteers, I know there's a number of you here. Thank you so very much. So, Joe Noonan, he's working with the family business Cascade Lumber. So see him for all your roof truss needs, and he will be happy to help. Joe, did you get your money's worth on that?
Yeah, thank you.
Good deal, okay. Also, a friend of mine, Steve Delaney, works at the TH as one of the editors. He was in the Colts when I first moved to Dubuque in 1984. He aged out, and then he became my assistant director for many years. He's not able to be here this morning because Amy told him he was not, in fact, allowed time for rebuttal. So, how does one become savvy? Well, you don't make the same stupid mistake more than once. And you just remember what it is you learn. No matter what happens, stay focused on your purpose. No matter what, it ends with me. That's such an important skill that you've got to have. No matter what goes wrong, you're going to find a way to keep it going and fix it. It's never about you. It's about servant leadership. It's about allowing the people that trust you to set up and run the organization, allow them all the success that they're due. If something really messes up, I learned this from Bear Bryant, the Alabama football coach. Something really messes up, I did it. If something goes really, really well, they did it. If we move forward, we're doing it together. Sometimes that's a really hard thing to learn, especially when you're 26. And I knew everything, right? Because I was a really good marching instructor. Therefore, I knew how to run a nonprofit called the Colts. I remember the first time we sent out a direct mail piece. Excuse me. Doug Horseman, actually, we were just comparing 30-some years ago, he was on our board of directors, and we just acknowledged that neither one of us knew a darn thing at the time. But stumbling forward, I remember the first time we decided we needed to raise some more money, raise our awareness in the community, we did a direct mail piece. We went through the phone book, there were about 6 of us, and we sent a handwritten letter, a handwritten envelope, to everybody we perceived lived on a street that had money. Boy, you talk about having a great qualified list. And I'm doing the math in my head. We ended up sending about 1,000. And I thought, well, if only 60% sent $10. Little did I know that in fundraising you get an award if you get 6%. So we were horribly disappointed that nobody cared, which was not the case. But we had to start somewhere, from very few know about us to making sure everybody that we possibly could reach knew about us. And that's where the growth comes from. And to my point originally, the sharing this information today with you, who by definition are community leaders, taking that out in the community and helping us spread the word for what we're doing with our work makes all the difference. Otherwise, other things that allow you to be savvy is you're always learning and you're always questioning. Consider mistakes a blessing. I had a friend of mine that was high up in the food chain at Disney, and he got reprimanded, in so many words, in his annual review because he had not made enough mistakes. That's why Disney is what they are, because they're willing to try new things and not rest on your laurels. Same sort of thing in this kind of a position. The other thing, too, is just the courage to keep going. I brought my favorite coffee mug. Being an executive director is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire, you're on fire, and everything's on fire. So Margaret knows, and I should mention too, Margaret Mionis and Julie Woodyard are both here. They're 2 of my key staff people at the office that make all that happen. Margaret, thank you so much. She's been with me since right after I got here. One of the smartest things I ever did was be smart enough to hire her. Otherwise, the last thing that I'll share is that sense of humor that's so important. The leader sets the tone. And if your staff is afraid of making mistakes, they're also not going to be willing to try new things and improve things. But just the other day, we were having a tough day. You can imagine some of the some of the folks we work with, some of them are starting to have memory problems. With some folks, we're their date book. We always call the day before and remind them of their ride, tell them the driver, color of the car. And we've got a number of folks that say, where am I going tomorrow? Well, tomorrow's the dentist appointment. Oh, okay. But there was one day where somebody had called, the same lady called 4 times probably in a matter of 3 hours with the same questions. And one of our staff was starting to get a little frustrated, and I said, I heard we work with old people. And then just let it hang there, and everybody laughed, and we were fine. But back when we're getting to where you don't know very much, you've also got to know what you stand for. This is the second really big award I got. The other one was being elected to the Drum Corps National Hall of Fame. But I want to share with you a quote that makes me smile when I read it again. One of the nomination letters that somebody sent in to Drum Corps International. I remember many occasions as a staff member when I thought Greg was being a complete idiot. I would analyze the situation, think about the ramifications, and conclude that the man was taking stupid pills for thinking what he thought. I'll be damned if he didn't turn out to be right every time. It has driven me nuts. The man is some sort of ESP that transcends normal logic. He can see the bright side of a bus wreck and the downside of a sure winner. He's fond of using the word perspective when someone disagrees with him, and it drives me bananas because as much as it always sounds like a way to avoid common sense, he's always right. A man like that can be infuriating, but he can also lead a program better than a man like myself. That's as flattering as what Kathy and Sue shared with you, so I appreciate that very much. Just one last final thought, I guess. I know that I'm intelligent because I know that I know nothing. That's from Socrates. Socrates and I were like this now, because he was right. One quick story, a gentleman named Curly. You can imagine, not a hair on his head, of course. 2 million mile safe semi-driver. And he lived north of town off of Peru Road, which is off bus routes and that sort of thing, and he wasn't able to get around. He'd lost his license because he lost his eyesight. His wife had to go into assisted living for memory care. couldn't live with him anymore. Obviously, he can't live there with her. So he contacted Do Ride. We set it up with him 6 days a week, 6:30 in the morning. He'd go see his wife. He'd have breakfast with her. They'd read the paper together. They'd share lunch. And he'd go home 6 days a week. And one day I was giving him a ride. I said, Curly, does your wife know you're coming every day? I know she's toward the end of, she was really struggling. He said, I don't know if she knows I'm there, but I know that I'm there. And I know that I couldn't be there without Do Ride. He was approaching 90 years old. His son called, who lived in Florida, and said, my dad's whole family is Do Ride. His 90th birthday is coming up. I want you to invite everybody you can think of that knows Curly. I'll buy dinner and the drinks and whatever. We went to the Morocco, and we had about 40 people there, all from Do Ride, and celebrated his 90th birthday. And up to the day that he passed, he said that was the highlight of his adult life, being there with us. So it's way beyond just getting folks to the doctor. We also found some folks that weren't getting a doctor because they couldn't afford even the $7 that we charge. So that day we did one of my really deep dives into studying the process. We went ready, fire, aim. And that day we said, anybody who's on any kind of public assistance gets medical rides for free. And we're still doing that. We're up now to about $25,000 worth of free medical rides every year. And I just had a hunch that we would get support to allow that to continue, and we did. United Way came in and helped. Some other grants came in, and we're still able to continue to do that. We have one volunteer that is actually my mother's classmate from Decorah, high school classmate. And he reminds me on a regular basis that I've known your mother longer than you have. Ultimately, serve a mission is greater than yourself and create opportunities for others. And that is the role of a leader, a servant leader, ultimately, is create opportunities. So given that, if you would please just raise your hand. Trust me. Put your hand down if your car breaks down constantly, is unreliable. Put your hand down if you don't have a valid driver's license. Put your hand down if you don't have car insurance. Put your hand down if you don't care about your community. You're all volunteers for Do Right. Thank you so very much.
Congratulations to Jan Powers.
Being a little older and wearing high heels for the first time in who knows how long, I had to come over here where I could use the guardrail. And I put my speech together in 75-point type. Can you read it in the back? Well, thank you, Amy and Mike, for this today. And I am just so grateful and so honored to get this award. And I want to say thanks to the Telegraph Herald and Woodward Communications. When I went out to get my plate, I ran into Tom and I said, this is awesome that your organization has chosen to highlight this segment of our community because there's a lot of us, baby boomers and even traditionalists that are still really active in the community, and we bring a lot of passion, I think, and obviously wisdom and experience that is good for the community. So thank you for shedding light on this generation. Thank you, Danielle Leibfried from United Way, where I love to volunteer, and her team, Katie, Paula, and Christy, for nominating me. You are a great bunch and do great things in the community. I want to say congrats to the other honorees that are here, Bob and Greg and Lori and Gus. I'm in good company, and you're great examples of people who have worked hard and smart, and you've made the community a better place, all in different parts of the community. And that's what I think is so cool about how you selected us as award recipients, because we all come from different parts of the community. Second, I want to thank my family for supporting me. To my husband, Mike, I wouldn't have been able to have a successful solo entrepreneur business out of our house for the last 27 years without you. I wouldn't have been able to spend so much time volunteering and going to cocktail parties and dinners and, beverages and such, and making connections in the community if you weren't there to hold down the fort. And I thank you so much for planning ahead so well so that we could both retire when we're young and healthy, and that we can enjoy all of our favorite things together. Third, I want to thank our kids, Danielle and Brad, who are here. And I told myself I wasn't going to cry, and I have no Kleenex, and I'm not wearing waterproof mascara. Oh my God, this could be bad. So, Danielle and Brad and their spouses who are holding on the fort with their children, and our Danielle's husband, Nick, and Brad's wife, Rachel. Oh, Nancy, thank you. When I started the Powers of Communication in 1997, after losing my job in a downsizing at what was then William C. Brown Publishers, Danielle, you were 8, and Brad, you were 6.5. And way back then, my wish was that you would both look at your young ma and maybe learn something from her in some way about life and business and life and family. I have one memory that I hope you don't take forward, kids, but one of my very first clients was East Dubuque Savings Bank, which is no longer, it's now Fidelity, but I was talking with the president of East Dubuque Savings Bank, Steve Bonnet at the time, and we had remade a bedroom in our 1,300 square foot house on the north end, and I had locked the door to be on a phone call with Steve, and Brad and Danielle were screaming at each other in the hallway in this small house, and they were pounding on the door, and I thought, what the heck? So I said, Steve, could you hold for just one moment, please? And I put him on hold, and I whipped open the door, and I gritted my teeth, and I said, you two little brats, unless you are on fire or bleeding, do not knock on this door ever again. Well, they hightailed it into the living room and hid. But all these years later, I'm proud to say that Danielle is a full-time solo entrepreneur herself, a wife, a mom of 2, lives in a Madison suburb, and Brad, with your full-time remote job living in Piasta, but you have some entrepreneurial side hustles, and being a husband and a dad now to 2 littles, Meemaw number 4 just 2 weeks ago. But thank you. I love you all. So I'd also like to thank some of the nonprofit leaders and fellow board members who I have had the great honor to serve for and with. I see some very familiar faces today. And I have had the good fortune to be able to volunteer for 40 years now with different organizations. And out of curiosity, I went back and I looked through old notes and computer files, and I counted up the number of boards and committees I had been on, and it came up to 37. And I thought, wow, that is a lot of meetings. But all of those experiences truly, in one way or another, helped me to learn about the huge role that nonprofits play in our community and why serving in some nonprofit capacity is so vital. So, switching gears for just a couple of minutes. Show of hands. I'm not going to do what you did, Greg, but okay. If you know what the initials OG stand for, raise your hand. OG. Okay. So this is not super scientific, but I'm going to kind of make it scientific. So I think the people that raised your hand were you're not yet savvies, and the ones who did not raise your hand because you don't know what OG means are maybe in that getting closer to 60 or over category, which is perfect because this is how I wrote my speech. So I didn't know what it meant either. And I was at a United Way board meeting maybe a year ago, and our board chair at that time, his name is Mike Size. He is the Chief Communication Officer at the Dubuque Community Schools, great guy. And in the meeting, he made a comment, we were on some agenda item, and he called me an OG. And I'm like, what? And everyone else at the meeting was like, smiling and nodding, and so I'm like smiling and nodding, and I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. And I'm thinking to myself, OG, is it old gal? Is it outdated granny? Old guard? And I'm thinking, Mike would never do that to me at a meeting. So, what would we do at the meeting? Well, you take your phone and you try to slide it under the table so no one sees you, and you Google OG. And here's what came up. OG stands for Original Gangster. Like, oh, I've just been called a gangster. But here's the definition. Old gangster is someone who is an originator, and especially one that is highly respected or regarded. The term is used to praise someone who's exceptional, authentic, or old school, but who is an expert at something. So here was Mike at the United Way meeting, and I know Danielle remembers this, giving me a compliment, and I didn't even notice. I didn't even realize. So that little OG incident really kind of opened my eyes, and I think it fits nicely with our event this morning. So those of us who are older and a little more savvy, we do have skills. We do have experiences to be respected and to be regarded. And I think, as an OG, and those of you who are out there as OGs, we have many opportunities, and dare I say, obligation, to share our skills and experiences with others. A few years ago when I was wrestling with, when am I gonna end my career? When am I gonna retire? Mike heard, a lot of my angst as I was thinking through that. Should I retire? Should I keep going? Should I try to reinvent myself? Should I, do I think I'm relevant anymore? Do I bring value to the table? Am I outdated? Does anybody think I have any value? And quite honestly, at that point, I'm thinking, I don't know. I really was very down on myself. But after my epiphany moment at the United Way board meeting, when I learned that I was an OG, it made me rethink myself, and it made me take a look at myself and my relevance and my value. And I'm happy to say that I do look at myself differently now. I do bring value to the table, and I know that can only be gained through age and experience. I do have skills, and I have perspective that's worth sharing. I am an OG, for Pete's sake. So here are a couple of tidbits of advice for you who are OGs sitting in the audience. If the thoughts that I mentioned that went through my head as I was getting ready to retire and look at a next phase, I encourage you to make this breakfast your epiphany moment. So I'd suggest you get in your vehicle after this event, you pull the rearview mirror down and you look at it, and you say, self, this is my epiphany moment. I do have good stuff to share. I do have experiences that someone else can learn from. Maybe I'm old school, but I can be valuable to someone. Then I challenge you as an OG to go out and connect with a younger person that you know. Tell them, hey, I've been thinking about you. I see a lot of promise in you. Encourage that younger person to get together with you and start a conversation. What have you got to lose? And if you're not a 60-plus OG yet, what can you do to tap into the wisdom and experience of someone who's older than you? Maybe you can identify with an OG in your life that you've always admired for some reason, and then reach out to them. Ask if they would be willing to have a conversation with you. What have you got to lose? So I'll close with a very old quote that I think is fitting for today, and it's by Booker T. Washington, who's a true old gangster. He said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. So, whether you're an OG or a not yet OG, go out there and lift someone else up. What have you got to lose? Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Congratulations to Gus Psihoyos.
Good morning, everybody. Receiving a Savvy Over 60 recognition after nearly 50 years in engineering is an honor. As I reflect of what I've learned over the decades, I keep coming back to one thing. Whatever wisdom I've gained didn't come from me alone. It came from the remarkable people I've had the privilege to work with. Looking around this room, I see mentors, colleagues, friends, and leaders who challenged my thinking, broadened my perspective, and shaped my career and my character. This recognition represents the collective influence, support, and generosity of so many of you. If I had to sum up my savviness, it really comes down to three simple principles that I've lived by. The first comes from longtime friend and mentor, a fellow Greek and mechanical engineer from John Deere, Gus Psihoyos. First, when you face a tough problem or need to make a good decision, seek out the 10 smartest people you know and listen to them. If I ever find myself the smartest person in the room, I know I'm definitely in the wrong room. The best decisions I've made in my career came from conversations with people who saw things differently or knew more than I did. What collective wisdom has guided me again and again. It all comes down to a Greek saying, "Gus Psihoyos," which means listen to the old wise man, meaning learn from people that are already messed up in life so you don't have to repeat what their mistakes were. Second, he said to me, "Gus, for a little bit more money or effort, you can go first class. Whether it's investing in quality materials, buying the right tool," which he was a tool guy, hiring the right people, or doing the job correctly, the cheapest short-term solution often is the most expensive long-term mistake. Excellence usually costs a little bit more upfront, but it pays dividends for years to come. Some of the best things I've been a part of happened simply because I chose excellence over good enough. And for those who have witnessed some of my home improvement adventures, you know I can turn even the simplest task into a full-blown project. But in the end, it usually turns out pretty good. And third, get to know people. I'm endlessly curious about what inspired you, how you got where you were, what drives you, how much you paid for something. Those conversations have pushed me to grow, to think differently, and appreciate the incredible talent and passion around me. Along the way, I've gained friendships that mean more to me than any technical achievement. I'm grateful for all the savvy people I've had the honor of working with over these many years, including City Manager Mike Van Milligan, for the trust and confidence he had in me to allow me to oversee so many great projects and work with so many great people. Thank you again for this honor. I accept it with gratitude, appreciation, and respect for the outstanding people who helped me along the way. And when I give you a call or see you in the hall and ask if you have time for a quick question, you know you're one of the most savviest people I know. So thank you TH Media, thank you to my wife Mary Rose, and thanks for all my friends and family that came tonight.
And thanks to all of you for being here today. Cheers to all our winners. Have a great day.